All right. Okay, counselors, we will reconvene the meeting. It is 11:09. All right, democracy. I'm just noting that we're struggling to get everybody in the times that have been allotted. We do have some flexibility, and so democracy has come up with a master plan that allows some additional time for organizations. And where there are individuals, we're still keeping them at 5. Have I got that correct? That's how we're aiming. All right. Okay. So we've got Patrick Rooney. I'm just, right, so do we not have Patrick in the room?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Godfrey, thank you for your attendance and being here early so we could bring you forward. That's fantastic. All right. There we go.
Is it on, is it?
That's
Great.
on.
Great.
All right. So we've got Godfrey Bridger, and his submission is on page 194 of your agendas. So Mr. Bridger, you have 5 minutes. There will be a clock on the screen. We do have your presentation. You can take your submission as read. We will ring a bell at 4 minutes. And if you want to wrap up and allow time for questions within the 5 minutes allotted, please just be cognizant of that.
Thank you
Over
very
to
much,
you.
Chairman. And thank you very much, all of you, for the really hard work that you do, staff and councillors. We are very lucky in New Zealand, I think, to have institutions like yours, and especially the Waikato. You do a lot of complicated work, and you look after things for our future, which is really important. I'm here objecting to something, but I do want to put it in context with that, because I have a great respect for what you do, and what you're achieving and what you will achieve. You've got too much to do with too little money and not enough time. So the next slide shows the way that the two foci that I'm focusing on are the green dots. You will be familiar with them. I will move on, but that's the context of what I am presenting to you. I'm objecting to those green circles. The next slide, please. So forget about the words at the top for the moment. Just look at the picture, which comes from the Waikato District Council plan and shows all the properties, and a circle of 800 metres from the bus stop, which is in the centre of that circle, and that's the Atawaia bus stop. And it would gather in, from my counting, approximately 135 properties, and those properties would be within 800 metres and therefore be charged about the $49 per $100,000 valuation. The next slide, please, shows the two routes that go through the Waikato region. And the little dots are actually the little circles in figure 8s or whatever are the bus stops. So clearly the circle that I drew is over to the left on, it's a bit difficult, is above the square of number 2 that I drew around. Yes, it's just a bit above there, just a bit above there. There's 2 little round dots, there's 2 little 8, and that's the bus stop that I'm referring to. Just make the point that this service, which is a trial service, is understood to cost $200,000 as per what was published in the Waikato Business, 5th of October, I think it was. And it finishes at the university, so it does not go to the Central Business District. We have friends who live in the 90-plus-year-old friends who live in the residential CC, and who would love to get right to the center of the city, but they can't. This has to need a change, and so that's complicated. Next slide, please. That just a very quick summary of the 7 trips a day that this only during the week and not during the weekend, which makes it less attractive. Next slide, please. And that is, according to the Busset program, that is the vehicle. I haven't seen the vehicle myself. I would never use this service. So, but as I mentioned later on, I'm very supportive of subsidizing transport. And I think that's a very, very important role for the Waikato Regional Council. So I do not object to subsidizing public transport. It's just the amount. Wow. Okay, next slide, please. This is a long list of 4 items which I'm suggesting with a computer should be able to make your rating far, far more fairer by being more granular. But I won't go into this because I don't have enough time. Next slide, please. This is just to say what I would be happy to. My current rates are $800 a year, and your option 2 suggests that would go up by $800 a year. That's a 100% increase, which is extraordinary in any scenario. And I'm suggesting that 12% increase, $100 more, would be as sensible. And just a footnote there to remember that there are a lot of asset-rich people in our area, but not income, and very income poor. Can I show the next slide, please? Because that shows you the numbers of, there's my count of 135 properties with 800 meters of Atawai CC.
Sorry, we've come to the end of the 5 minutes.
I know, but can I make the one point is that you're asking for a cross subsidy of just from one bus stop of 31% of the cost. Just from that one bus stop, you're paying for 31% of the cost of that travel. I think that's, you'll excuse me if I say, utterly ridiculous. And I think this is more important than the 5 minutes, if you'll excuse me, Mrs. Chairman. This is a cross subsidy that is huge. And I would argue that the media would love the story, because this is really way, way across. If those 17 bus stops, those 17 bus stops I showed, and you collected the same amount, you'd be cross-subsidizing by $565,000.
Thank you very much for your submission. I appreciate you, the time you put into preparing it and the time you put into appearing before us today.
Do you have any response to what I've just said?
In terms of?
Well, do you think it's reasonable that the subsidy of that level should take place?
Council will be taking that into consideration during deliberations of the LTP matters. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Godfrey. Much appreciated.
I just wanted to say thank you, Godfrey. A very, very well-informed presentation. It's good to see something that clear.
All right. Next up, we have Simon Wickham with Momentum. So, councillors, this is on page 243 of your agenda pack. Now, Simon, we have 10 minutes available for Momentum today. So I don't know if you heard the instructions, so we'll put 10 minutes on the clock. We will ring the bell when there is 1 minute left. But if you would like to entertain questions or any comments from councillors, you need to allow for that in those 10 minutes.
Will do. Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, councillors, for the opportunity to present the submission and then be here in person to speak to the submission. I've sort of planned on 5 minutes, so that hopefully will give you time to ask me questions and find out a little more of any of the EWICs. I wish I knew questions you may have. Feel free. Firstly, our submissions, simply and solely regarding the Waikato Regional Development Fund and the decision that you're weighing up of option 1 or option 2. And we wish to submit, in respecting that it's your decision to make option 1 or option 2, we wish to submit an option under option 1, essentially, should you wish to discontinue the fund. As I say, respect the fact that's your decision, but then a subsequent opportunity that might arise out of that decision under option 1. But first, let me start by congratulating you, because we live in a world where it's often easier to give away money than it is to accumulate it, and it's easy to give it away to single one-off appeals, single course-related events and/or projects, and there's a huge amount of need out there right now in these economic times. But traditionally, it has been hard to give away money or to give away accumulated wealth well, and by well I mean in terms of intergenerational and transformational, rather than just what I call one and done donations or distributions. And that's where community foundations like Momentum Waikato locally are providing a valuable solution for both generous individuals and generous organisations who want to give well for a better future for Waikato forever. And the forever is really the key part. I just want to refer to you inside the annual report. It's the inside front cover I'm really speaking to, and that infinity loop, particularly the bottom half, or the gold half of that loop on the inside front cover, the bottom half really speaks to our model of intergenerational funds that are smartly invested and provide a vehicle to give now and then forever to great causes and projects in the region. And one of the challenges a lot of donors and distributors have is not being able to foresee 30 years into the future what the need might be, and that's the sole sort of benefit, if you like, of endowment funding. So rather than a one and done distribution of your regional fund, we submit a better alternative under option 1 would be for any residual funds, not the whole of the fund, maybe to work with us to establish a regional endowment fund with ongoing community benefit. That will enable local giving back forever at no ongoing cost to council. Our submission simply asks that council consider working with Momentum Waikato. We're well known and we work closely with you now to establish a regional endowment fund from any residual funds left in the Regional Development Fund, should option 1 be chosen by the council. That fund, as an example, if you had residual funds of $1 million, and this is based on our future financial modelling, if invested today, is likely over 50 years to distribute 2.62 million back to its community. So an initial distribution or deed of gift of 1 million creates $2.62 million of giving back, whilst at the same time continuing to grow and inflation-proof that fund to 1.74 million over that same time period. And so it's a way to both grow your giving back and grow your fund at the same time. And we think this is a real once in a lifetime opportunity. It's rare that councils are thinking about where to redirect residual funds from. We'd love to work with your executive to bring back proposals if you choose option 1 around detail. Our typical endowment funds have various forms of what we call tagging or untagging of those funds. You could tag it to regional economic development. You could tag it to purposes wider than that. That's not so much for today's discussion, more just to say, please consider option 1 under option 1 with Momentum Waikato. So yeah, I'll pause there and leave that open for discussion.
Any questions? Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yes. You give in there an example of a $1 million fund invested, which would give back 2.6 million funding over a 50-year period. Do you have a figure in mind when you suggest we contribute money?
I'm mindful there'll be other discussions and other presentations about what this fund could be used for. So, we used $1 million just as a nice round figure. Could be less than that, could be more than that. We've got some funds that we've got, our largest fund is just over 10 million. Our smallest fund is 50,000. But obviously when you start small, you distribute small. When you start larger, it's sort of a hockey stick effect over time in terms of potential returns to give back.
Councillor Kneebone.
Well, it's just a quick one. Thanks, Simon. economic development that's not typically something that Momentum would get involved with, or does it kind of end up doing that by an effect in some ways?
Yeah, there's it's not, we don't, well, we have about 9 different focus areas. Economic vitality is one of them. And we've got a couple of funds, donor-led, that wanted to put back into there. And then we've also got a number of funds that we'd say inadvertently support other forms of economic development, and then obviously things like the theatre project that have spin-off effects as well. So.
Any other questions for Simon? Ben, do you have any more? Or?
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, sorry, could I just add one comment just in regards to Councillor Kneebone's comment? Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is that we would be supporting others' work in this space through this fund. It's not, we don't deliver directly. We'd grow this fund to support others delivering directly.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Look, thanks very much for your presentation, Simon. It does open our eyes to other opportunities. It is, we are always very conscious that it is ratepayer money, and that we are a large region too. So it's heartening to see a number of projects throughout the regions that have benefited from this endowment fund that is set up now. So yeah, just like to thank you very much, and possibly a presentation back to our finance committee further down the track would be interesting to see that come back through as a paper or something like that to the finance committee. I know our chair's online, so maybe that's something he can pick up for the future. But once again, yeah, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. And our geographic areas are probably the most closely aligned, actually. I think we go almost as far as Taupo and right up the Coromandel Peninsula, out to Raglan and up to as far as Pocono.
Very good. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your submission.
Well,
Much
thank you for the
appreciated.
opportunity. Have a good day. Thanks all.
All right. No. All right. So we had an earlier presenter scheduled in Patrick Rooney for The Future is Rail and Save Our Trains, but he appears to not be here. And we don't yet have Gavin Scott. Is that what I'm hearing? All right. So we'll, huh? Oh, who is? Gavin Scott is walking in now. All right. Okay. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting for a couple of minutes.